What's up, everyone? Welcome into DodgerHeads, presented by DodgerBlue.com, part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network. My name is Jeff Spiegel, joined today by Daniel Starkand here to talk the first of the offseason, Daniel, offseason for us, but talk some free agents because there is one name, non-Shohei Ohtani division, that is gaining the most attention, and that is Japanese pitcher Yoshinobu Yamamoto, who is set to be, in my opinion, the top free agent starting pitcher on the market. Daniel, let me throw some numbers at you, and then you can tell me how interested the Dodgers should be. He's a 25-year-old right-hander. He had a 1.82 ERA with 922 strikeouts over the past 7 seasons. So ERA over 7 years. He's won the pitching triple crown there, which is wins, ERA, and strikeouts, I believe, the last 3 seasons. He's coming off of a 1.2 ERA season with 164 innings. Keith Law says he's the number 1 starter. Farhan Zaidi, general manager of the Giants, called him one of the best starters in the world. And in that same piece, Andrew Baggerly says that sources tell him the Giants will not be outbid for Yamamoto. Given what we've seen the Dodgers go through from a starting pitching perspective in the playoffs and over the last few years, Daniel, my question to you is, should the Dodgers have the same approach? We're not going to be outbid for this guy?
First of all, I just want to say that this dude is an absolute beast. Like, you just read out the numbers, and I know Japan is like, it's not apples to apples with MLB, but that's like inarguably the second best league in the world, and he has just dominated every step of the way. I still think Shohei Ohtani has to be your number 1 priority if you're the Dodgers. So that's that. If to me, the guy you can't get outbid on is Ohtani. Like, I know we've talked about that a lot, and he's got the arm issue and he can't pitch this year, but it's still Shohei Ohtani at the end of the day. He wants to sign a long-term deal. Like, I don't think him not pitching in the first year should deter you away from that. But I also think this is a guy they should go after heavily as well. I mean, you read the numbers. He's 25 years old. That's to me, like, that's the most appealing part of all this, because most of the time when you see like big, top of the line starting pitchers get to free agency, they're like 29 or 30. And those are the guys that you're definitely hesitant to give that 8-10 year deal to, just because you know how pitchers wear down, the injury concerns and whatnot. But this guy's 25. Like, you should have no issues giving him a 10-year deal. If he gets injured at some point, like, fine, so be it. Like, he's still got his prime years ahead of him. And the stuff is just absolutely electric. It's a high 90s fastball with a devastating, breaking ball. His command is insane. Like, he walked like 20 guys last year, I want to say, and struck out like 170. He's everything you want in a frontline starting pitcher. And I know the Dodgers, I'm gonna guess they've done their scouting on this guy. I know Andrew Friedman has always liked, the Asian pitchers. We've seen him sign Ryu, Maeda, this other Korean guy that they have in their farm system now. And we know they've been on Ohtani since he was in high school. This is probably another guy they've been following since he's in high school, just because he's had that pedigree the whole time. So he's going to get a lot of money. Like, it's going to be top of the line starting pitcher money, just because he's 25, so he could sign a 10-year deal and you shouldn't have issues. But at the same time, we know the Dodgers need starting pitching, and they need a lot of starting pitching. It's not like they just need to add like a couple innings eaters. Like, they need top of the line starting pitching, probably, multiple guys. So this is going to be the best guy out there. Like, I know, Blake Snell had a Cy Young season. Aaron Nola has had a solid career, but to me, this guy is a tier above both of those guys even.
Yeah, you mentioned it. Jordan Montgomery, Aaron Nola, Blake Snell are kind of the best guys that are going to be available via free agency. Lucas Giolito, Sonny Gray, Marcus Stroman, some other names who will be out there who have had varying degrees of success over the last couple of seasons. But you mentioned, I think, the key that what makes this unique is guys who come over in situations like this, they always have, at least historically, ended up getting a tick below top of the line, money. Like, if we're talking AAV, it would not surprise me if Blake Snell and Aaron Nola both end up making more money than this guy. I think he'll get more guaranteed money because he'll probably be signing an 8 to 10 year contract, like you mentioned. But that's where there's risk and reward. Some teams are going to be scared off by, man, we just want to see him do it at the major league level first before we pay him that amount of money, which presents itself as an opportunity to teams like the Dodgers. But the one thing that jumps out to me, and you referenced it, it's the fact that yeah, his stuff is his fastball's kind of mid 90s, and he throws it as a four seamer, a cutter, a sinker, whatever you want. He's got a nasty splitter. He throws a curveball, but it's his command that is the carrying skill, the carrying trait, if you will. And if I'm going to sign a guy to a long term contract, that's the carrying skill I want. I don't want to end up with a Noah Syndergaard whose fastball just isn't a fastball anymore, 5 or 6 years down the road. I want a guy who, we just saw Clayton Kershaw with no stuff at the end of the regular season, still able to execute pitches, still able to limit runs. Obviously, the NLDS start being the exception. But if you're signing a guy who say, hey, at the end of his career, at the end of this contract, at the very least, even if the fastball is down to 92, he's still going to be able to throw it a bunch of different ways, and he's going to be able to throw it for strikes and not walk batters. That's kind of the type that I would want to sign up for a long-term contract. And it's worth noting, by the way, that Kodai Senga, who came over last year from the NPB, he came over his rookie season. He was 30 years old. He posted a 2.98 ERA, and this guy Yamamoto is widely regarded to be better than him. So you've got a 25-year-old who just turned 25 in August, by the way, who's 5 years younger than Kodai Senga, who just came over and posted a sub-3 ERA as a rookie, and you have the opportunity to sign him as a team that desperately needs starting pitching. It's crazy. He wants to be in a large market. Obviously, Los Angeles would fit that bill, but there is going to be competition with the Giants, with the Mets, with basically every team in the league. It's worth noting one last thing. There is a posting fee, a percentage of his contract, and it's kind of confusing. It's like the 20% of the first 25 million, and it goes up from there. On a $150 million contract, it would be about a $25 million posting fee. If it's a $200 million contract, I believe it goes up to like 30 or 31 million. So just something to keep in mind. But if you could get him for 8 years and $25 million, which are kind of the numbers that I've seen thrown around, and then you add in the posting fee and it's like $240 million, that would be a pretty remarkable add for the Dodgers to add a guy who's younger than Tony Gonsolin, who's the same age as like all these pitching prospects that are coming up. He's the same age as those guys.
Yeah, the youth is the biggest key for me, just because it's going to be a long-term deal, and you're not usually comfortable with that with starting pitching. But for a guy that's 25 years old and as polished as can be, like we see that, I think we see that a lot with Japanese pitchers. Like they do a really good job with pitching over there. You don't see a ton of position players come over and have a ton of success outside of like an Ichiro. But you have seen a lot of pitchers come over and have success. It will take an adjustment period. They pitch once a week in Japan. So, adjusting to the 5 or 6 day schedule will be a change. But I think if you get a guy like him in the Dodgers, pitching lab with Mark Pryor and all those guys, I think really great things could happen. So I know, like you said, there's going to be plenty of suitors. According to the report you mentioned, the Giants aren't going to be outbid. I have a hard time seeing the Mets being outbid.
Yeah.
But if like outside of Ohtani, he's like the next best thing that's worth it to me.
Yeah. For context here, Yamamoto is 6 months older than Bobby Miller. So imagine and he's younger than Ryan Pepio. So like, imagine if those guys were hitting the free agent market now, and the amount of money that you would pay. And you could make a very compelling case that he's a better pitching prospect than Bobby Miller is at this point, because we know the stuff that Bobby Miller has had, but he hasn't necessarily been able to put it together. This guy has won the Triple Crown in the second best league in the world 3 years in a row, has shown durability, has command. So at the very least, he's on par with Bobby Miller. I think you could make the case he'd be a better pitching prospect if you had to choose between the two. And he's 6 months older than Bobby Miller. So basically the same age. So crazy stuff, but we'll see. Lots to get into as this progresses. These types of processes with the posting fee available to every team could take a little while. So this might be a story that lingers into the middle of the offseason at the very least, but we'll keep our tabs on it here at Dodger Heads and keep you posted as more news comes. That is Daniel Starkand. My name is Jeff Spiegel. As always, we appreciate you joining us. Please subscribe, ring the notification bell here. Keep tabs on all that is happening with the Dodgers throughout the rest of the offseason as we head towards what is hopefully a more successful 2024 than the season we just saw. Enjoy the rest of your day, folks. And as always, go Dodgers.